One of the things that I thought about, and it's because my brain is wrestling wired, and I understand that. But you raised an entire generation on pro wrestling. Two of the top stories was Sting standing up for what is right and just in a company, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was tell your boss he's not going to steal your labor anymore. But you wonder why everyone and their mother went and said, hell yeah. Wrestling primed America for Luigi Mangione. Welcome to another episode of Do We Have Heat, the pro wrestling debate show. Today's episode, we are debating who is the greatest pro wrestling anti-hero. As you might be able to see with your own two eyeballs, I will be on behalf of Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on the corporation.
And I'm doing Sting because Michael wouldn't let me do Brian Pillman Jr.
Yo! Damn, dude. Yeah, I wouldn't let him do Brian Pillman Jr. But in an attempt to segue this, because what's crazy is, guys, what's insane about this, don't forget to sell the hard cam, babe. What's crazy about this is you know what we're talking about today, and as my co-host, as my cohort in this debate, you give me that as a segue to talk about some of these things. And I want to say, we have decided to do the pro wrestling anti-hero due to the fact that something that's going on in the world today. If you haven't been living under a rock,
Go look at CNN or any news
site. They're all
You'll
covering it.
You'll understand.
They're all covering
You
it.
got it.
Right. We are talking.
Unless this is in the future and you're watching this, and in which case just look up important events.
December 2024.
December 2024.
It'll be the first result.
First
Easily,
or maybe second.
Easily the first result. What we are talking about.
If the drones turn into being aliens, it'll be the second.
No, dude. No, this is bigger than aliens. It
Ooh,
is. I think it is. We are going to be talking about what happened with the United Healthcare CEO and a legend, Luigi Mangione. And so the reason why I think these two, obviously, like, we understand the anti-hero, and I don't want to frame this in a way that Luigi is an anti-hero, because obviously I think we can all agree murder's a bad thing. But I think the much more interesting analysis of this is everyone's backlash. America's like, I'll be honest, I was super shocked by America's response to this.
It was like the sub again.
The sub?
Remember the sub from last year?
Oh my, no.
That was this year. Oh, the sub was this year.
That's not in the top 3 results. Most important.
Ooh, wow, wow.
So if you remember when the sub happened,
what a year, Bob.
The Deep Horizon. That was that underground well. What was the sub's name? I don't know. The Rich Titanic.
Ocean Gate. It was Ocean Gate.
Ocean Gate. Yeah.
Ocean Gate's the sub's name.
So Ocean Gate, when they went down, it crushed, and unfortunately, everyone aboard perished. Right. But America wasn't super thoughts and prayers regarding that, nor were they in regards to this CEO.
The sub was much more. Yeah, that was a thing that happened. They went down in a sub. It was carbon fiber.
What do we got? Yeah, Ocean Gate. Yeah, that's the right one. Yeah. Huh? Oh, it is last year. It was June 2023.
June 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Producer Kellen.
You started to make 2024 feel like a long year, Michael. But no. So last year,
that's a psyop, dude. It was this year.
It was
government psyop.
So last year, it was more like an apathetic thing. This time around, it's
people are aggressive with it,
excited.
Right? They were okay. So the thing that was really interesting to me was, like, obviously I'm on TikTok. If you're not following, follow our TikTok page.
Suplex Media.
Yeah, thank you for the plug. Like I
got
all
socials.
So when I saw that first happen, like there were people in the comments like, thoughts and prayers are out of network. You haven't reached your like thoughts and prayers deductible. And I was like, dude, it's not even like people immediately went to joking about it. And I know the internet can be a callous place, but they immediately jumped into it, and I was like, oh wow, this is an interesting turn of events. How many people feel this way?
And it was basically across the board. It wasn't just one group being like, "Oh, it's everyone's just hating on the rich people."
Dude, the United Facebook page, they had to take down they had an in memorial poster, and they had to take it down because it had, like before they took it down, it had, like, almost 100,000 "ha reactions to it
People just
on Facebook.
on Facebook.
That's your
That's your aunt and uncle and like your 75-year-old grandpa.
dog, that's not, like, a bunch of young kids who are, like, edge lords looking to, like,
That's
say
people
things.
lowballing trucks on Facebook Marketplace.
I know what I got. I know what I got. No, you're right. But
A
it
lot of haha reacts on the UHC Facebook post.
which is
That's what you have.
and so the reason that I wanted to tie this all in today is I think that there's this underlying story that is sometimes told in pro wrestling, especially with the characters that we're talking about the ruling class or the people who make the rules versus, in the regards to Stone Cold Steve Austin's case, right? And I guess
Yeah,
let's get into it.
there's a distinction between the two things they're fighting against,
Sure,
but they're similar because they're a resistant
force
force
it.
to a greater thing than them. Steve Austin being more of the I'm done with working, I'm taking it to the corporation that I work for directly to the boss. And Sting is more of he's fighting against a possible just tyranny over the company he's
Right,
in.
right, and I think that's really interesting because though they are both anti-heroes here, their paths of how they get to where they how they got there drastically different, right? Sting went through an entire transformation, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
I think that
there was a
Sting
whole look change. He came out one day and that's how he looked. Before this, he looked like a Hollywood blonde surfer guy. He was literally surfer Sting.
right. And I know Stone Cold Steve Austin did, and I don't want to give you a point for that. I want to say like that's a good thing. I think when you drastically change your look and did what Sting did, like
Austin did too.
but you have to think like he was still doing the Stone Cold 316 thing at the King of the Ring where he cut the 316 promo. He wasn't feuding with McMahon yet. Those seeds
Not
were
yet.
sown. He was with the Hollywood Blonde thing when he was the Hollywood Blondes. Yeah, completely different guy. Also, I'd probably say top 5 best head shave. Like, you ever see Stone Cold
Easily.
Steve Austin with hair?
Uh,
Ooh, boy had it wasn't
Him
even
and Kurt
hair.
Angle are two of the best head shaves in wrestling.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Kurt Angle
Oh,
without hair versus Kurt Angle with hair is
recent though? Recent one? Legendary? Baron Corbin.
oh yeah, Baron
Baron
Corbin.
Corbin, undoubtedly. The skullet. Luke Gallows to an extent. They also made him keep the skullet because like he was like,
Yeah,
mentally challenged. Or what did they ever have? What
that was the
Jesse and
Festus
yeah, when he
character.
was Festus. Oh, that's right. Okay, so they retconned it because they said Festus was addicted to substances. That's why when he joined the Straight Edge Society, he was
He
like
got better.
he got better. Cause yeah, yeah, okay,
They had to
okay,
be like we
that's what it
can't
was.
be making fun of people with a disability. Like
They
it
were
was right at that point where they couldn't do WLC anymore.
I'm
Still
sorry.
one of the greatest things they ever did though, easily.
The mid 2000s called. Eugene is on line one.
Ooh, yeah. I've been watching listen, side note, I've been watching The Sopranos, and I didn't think the 90s and early 2000s were a different time, but ooh, buddy.
Oh yeah.
They are such a different time.
Well, speaking of a different time, we're talking about these two instances happened in the 1990s. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I believe, is the better anti-hero, a pushback on the authority figure, whatever you want to call him here. And I want to say because Stone Cold captured the everyman, he just wanted to go down, he wanted to drink beer, he wanted to raise a little hell. And I think that that's admirable. And I'm sorry, like I think Stone Cold is one of the bros where Sting was kind of just a weird goth kid sitting in the stands like, "Okay, cool, you're brooding. You got a scary bird or whatever." But like you sat up there for a year, Sting, and watched the NWO do what they did, and you're like, I'm not gonna get involved." You know what Sting was? Sting was the United States of America in World War II. They're like, "Not my problem, Europe. Not my problem, Europe." And then the Japanese were like, "Let me touch one of those boats, America," and America's like, "We're gonna unleash horrors on your country." And I think that's what Sting did. I think there was a breaking point where Stone Cold Steve Austin, man, he had friction with McMahon almost immediately. I think that when they really got into it, he was like, "No, Route One is beating you up," and that's what Stone Cold did. Where Sting played like mind games and stuff. You can't do that with an invading force. You got to get in there. You got to get to work.
Well, so while yes, Sting was fighting an outside force,
Yeah.
but whereas Steve Austin had that, like you said, a like everyman kind of fantasy,
Mhm.
right? Sting was a 1v20. Like the WCW side of the company wanted him, but he was by and large fighting the NWO on his own. He was showing up, he was popping up, he was attacking them even before he said anything.
Yeah.
Before he said his first words, he still was coming out and dropping NWO members. He was also dropping members of WCW when they were doing wrong. He wasn't fighting necessarily a fight against one specific entity. He saw injustice and he went after it.
Which is
And it just
admirable.
it just happened also to be that the vast majority of injustice in WCW fell within the NWO.
But he's like, okay, what is in
Sting,
the alignment chart? What is he?
he's
Neutral law.
chaotic good. Sting is chaotic good.
I think Austin would be chaotic good. I don't know. Sting would. I guess so. I don't know.
Sting did the right thing
Yeah.
through whatever means he had, but he never there was never a line crossing with Sting, right? So he was like chaotic, but he was a good guy. He was fighting on the side of right and he used any means to do that.
Yeah, he's like Batman.
Almost, yeah. Like okay, listen.
Sounds like okay.
He
Obviously,
is
like the
the
repellent.
care
Careful with the
oh my bad.
wires.
I'm gonna just move that.
Yeah.
His character is just the crow. Like it's just the crow who's a spirit of vengeance. So that's what it is. He's a spirit of vengeance and justice.
For those who don't know, though.
The Crow is a comic where one of the main character is taken out by the bad guys but is brought back, and he has supernatural powers that he then uses to avenge himself, his girlfriend, and bring justice to people who have been wronged. So that's where Sting's character, he is an embodiment of justice and vengeance for against the tyrannical NWO. It is an outside force coming in and
Yeah.
trying to overtake a company and trying to push out all the good aspects of people in the company and basically take it over and roll it with an iron fist.
No, I get that.
Stone Cold is coming at it from he's worked for the company, now he's disillusioned by the company.
Yeah.
He's seen the company and he's like, I don't like where it's going anymore. And Sting is coming from, I want to save the good in this company and where it is. So, yeah, I see what you're talking about, and where, oh, well, maybe Sting's just wishy washy, but he intervened multiple times throughout this before uncensored in 97, before he laid out the NWO. He intervened in their matches, he stopped them from attacking people, he stopped people from attacking the NWO unjustly as well too, because he was stopping people from doing heel things.
Yeah.
If someone was trying to be a heel, he was like,
Sting was like
no.
the sheriff.
He's the sheriff. He was the guy trying to bring order until one side decided to say, hey, we're going to be way, way, way worse. They defiled the WCW championship. They made a mockery of wrestling as it was, at least to Sting and other members of the WCW locker room. And that's what made Sting's decision. And he went and laid out all of NWO. And it became not like fighting corporate, because he's not fighting the corporation. He's fighting one person in corporate, which is the writer Eric Bischoff, basically.
Well, yeah.
The leader,
The
the head
lead-
of the show. But
But-
all the rest of the crew's not on his side. It's only the NWO people that are there.
Dude, the NWO had like they remember they like Nick Patrick.
They had a lot of people.
He was the evil referee. But
Everyone was in the NWO
did
at
they
one
have
point.
evil camera operators?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I mean, kayfabe.
You would have to think that there were people up and down corporate that took sides.
Right. In kayfabe.
In kayfabe, obviously, everyone's making money in the back
Right,
end for
yeah, no.
real. Like we side note, we're not talking that they actually did this. No,
But
but for
okay.
the story purposes,
Mm.
you have I don't know, Sting's what he was doing feels more
Dude, it's
it's
boring,
it's more of
dog.
a
Oh, it's a snooze fest. Well, you know what's cooler than hanging out and then, like, teaching people lessons by staring at them silently?
hitting him
Getting
with a
this
baseball bat
you know
like Sting did.
yeah, that's cool too. You know what? But even cooler than that is getting your boss's car and filling up his convertible with a cement truck. Look, I understand Sting.
Well, you are comparing a middle of the feud thing to the very beginning of a thing. So you're comparing a huge moment and not even the climax part of the whole feud
Huge
between
moment. No, dogs. They're the problems. Here's the thing. The problem is I'm embarrassed with riches of showing up the proletariat and showing them who the boss is. Because Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, dude, you got the Zamboni, you got Monster Truck. Stone Cold had pizzazz. That's what I loved about it because he was like, you know what? I can beat these fools up any day. I do that. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin was like, I'm the Stone Cold Stunner. Everyone in your lineage, Vince. Your daughter, yeah, your son multiple times. Your daughter's current boyfriend, your daughter's future husband, your wife, you, dog. Everyone's getting a stunner, and also just to add insult to injury, I'm gonna fill your car up with cement, dog. That's so funny. It's so good. Sting's like, I'm gonna point a bat at you and teach you a lesson, and you should be right and just. And Stone Cold's at home in the laboratory cooking up new ways to mess with his boss because he's like, you know what I should do this week? I should get a monster truck with my own logo on it and just run over Vince's rental car. Oh yeah, how much money is that going to cost to get me a monster truck? I don't know, but it would be worth it. Stone Cold was doing stuff for the love of the game.
But at that point, it turns into a parody of itself, right? Like it's just ridiculous. What Sting was doing was much more grounded, right? Like it was going after your boss and doing all that stuff. Yeah, awesome, but it's a power fantasy. It is what it is just a pure power fantasy.
Yeah.
With what Sting is doing is more realistic, much more realistic, saying, "Hey, I'm going to stand up against what I see as the injustice, what I see is wrong." That's while we can say, "Oh man, I wish I would want to do this, that, and the other and work." We can in every day stand up against injustice. What Sting was doing is transferable. Like it's not like what Stone Cold was doing. Stone Cold made great TV.
He
We can say that. It made great TV. It made for some great TV
Yeah.
moments. But with Sting,
Where you gonna
there's a lesson to be you can learn a lesson there, regardless of what Sting's methods were.
you don't need a cement truck with Stings playing. All you
Yeah,
need is a Louisville Slugger.
yeah, you need a baseball bat and a plan.
I mean, yeah, and that goes to the individual. Like when you think about like first of all, I want to take a side note and talk about both of these characters, and I want to tie it back into what we were talking about earlier with the Luigi Mangione thing. I One of the things that I thought about, and it's because my brain is wrestling wired, and I understand that. But you raised an entire generation on pro wrestling. Two of the top stories was Sting standing up for what is right and just in a company, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was tell your boss he's not going to steal your labor anymore, and you're going to not only physically assault him, but you're going to ruin his family. You are going to ruin his possessions, and you are going to sabotage his dreams by ruining his television show. I'm sorry, but you wonder why everyone and their mother went and said, "Hell yeah!" Like not every,
It's me, Austin.
yeah, dude. I'm sorry.
It was me all along.
Wrestling primed America for Luigi Mangione because everyone in their whole everyone if you've ever been in a situation where you're working for a living, you've probably had a bad boss. So many people out there who we've been taught these lessons. The little guy stands up and fights for what's right, fights against the evil corporations and stuff like that, and then like that's all that's how many popular, not even pro wrestling, how much popular media is that where like
Most of it.
yeah, most of it. It's
Rambo,
yeah, Star Wars,
Star Wars,
V for Vendetta, like
Indiana Jones.
yes, it's that. And then we're like
It's just a guy against hundreds.
right, and we prop them up.
The 300, literally.
The literal 300, yeah, because they were fighting like 12,000 Persians. Were they Persians? Yeah.
Persians.
Anyways,
It was actually 300 Spartans and 1,100 Thermopylaeans, I believe,
I
as
don't.
well. There were more people. Whatever. It's the Zack Snyder thing in the comic book messed everything up. It's a lot more of a boring fight than.
Yeah, if you're getting your like history from comic books, you might want to consider the source.
Hey man, think of our country right now. It's not a far fetched thing.
You know what's funny to me is when I think about this. You're talking about comic books, right? All these people with Punisher, all the people with Punisher skulls on their car. You're like
America failed media literacy, buddy.
100%. But also, you're like, oh, that's why you think you're the Punisher. Like all these people were just like after the
Whole lot of moron lobs.
yeah, a lot of them, ton of them, dude. We saw one today. But no, when I think about that, that's why those people think that they're that's why they think that they're like the rebels. But we have popular media of just filled with like rebels doing what's right, and pro wrestling's no different. Having said that, I understand why there was that sentiment across the entire nation that everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's there was
It's a
like
thing.
there was two prevailing sentiments. There was one like, oh hell yeah, and then the other one was kind of like, oh hell yeah, it sucks for his family, but like and then like and people would just start immediately telling you their horror stories with insurance, and I think that I'm going to tie it back into what my argument here. Having that sense of realism, having that sense of like wanting to quote unquote punch your boss, like that was the whole thing. That was the power fantasy you were talking about. I think that that is what is more realistic. Look, you can want to be a superhero and fight like Captain America and beat everybody up in the elevator, but like Sting can do that, but you can't. But
Well,
well,
here's
what?
the thing. One, you said a power fantasy was more realistic than something that's actually realistic.
Fighting 20 dudes with a baseball bat is not realistic.
Well, it's not that it's not the literal, it's you're taking it too literal. You're
Okay.
looking at it in too literal of a sense.
Okay.
The way I can put it is there is a very iconic image of in China from the
Oh,
80s. One person in front of a tank. He knows what's going to happen to him. But that picture has lived on forever as a picture of resistance.
Tiananmen Square. Yeah.
It's too literal. You're not thinking about it and oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. People have done it. Lots of people have done it. They've stood in front of certain doom and went, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And
doing
that
what's
is
right.
throughout history, regardless of it. There's images of a man when everyone's kneeling in front of Hitler at one of the things, and he's standing. He's the lone person that won't kneel.
There you go.
Nothing good happened to him.
No,
But you know what?
no, yeah.
Even then, let's look at it then. Schindler. Look at what Schindler did. He stood up and against an entire system by himself
Yeah.
and got people out. It took other people around him, just like Sting. Sting didn't just have Sting. There were other people on Team WCW. You had Arn Anderson. You had Ric Flair.
Yeah.
They had
Sting's like, shut up about him. I don't like he's my friend anymore.
Sting had a support system in the same way that regardless of, and it may not have been there at the moment in front of him,
Yeah.
but he knew that it was behind him. He knew that there were people that were watching him
Right.
and that he could inspire those people. So in a literal sense, yeah, but
The face of defiance.
when he comes out, one of the moments that he actually comes out, what does he bring with him? A whole bunch of Stings, a ton of people in Sting masks, and it freaks the N.W.O out because it's not necessarily because they're all ready to fight the N.W.O. It's that there's one person there, but they understand that guy's got support.
Yeah.
He's got backing, and it's not from a company; it's from the people.
Yeah, because he's the object. It's like it's the reverse
He's the
Joker.
symbol.
It's the reverse Joker movie. Like,
He's a symbol.
he is a symbol. Yeah, that's right. It's like Batman. Like Batman's a symbol, and they
Steve
really
Austin's a power fantasy, and it's great. It's awesome. But
yeah.
Sting transcends being a power fantasy because there are so many instances you can point to in history that can be like, this is what Sting was doing. Yeah, it's wrestling, it's silly, it's stupid, but it's the same thing. He's standing up against a power structure in a way that is very realistic because he's scared. You can still say that he's scared. He's out there by himself. He doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
With Steve Austin, he's just running around basically being the comic book villain of the week for his boss.
Yo, it's kind of I'm gonna go. I brought that. We're bringing it back to comic books again. Sting, Batman, Stone Cold Steve Austin, kind of Deadpool-y, like where he's like, I'm gonna do gags, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
bits, I'm going to,
I'm gonna dress up like a chicken. I'm gonna dress up like a doctor.
yeah.
I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
Stone
show
Cold.
up and beat his
Time out.
lackey up.
Time out. Okay, I wanna trip down Stone Cold's life real quick. Stone Cold was really in his bag during that time and was just
It was
like
great.
he was like, I'm gonna impersonate it. Okay, like think about this, kayfabe wise. Stone Cold Steve Austin, first of all, does what? Does he beat up a doctor and take the scrubs and the medical ID badge? I think
Mm,
so. How does he get in there?
So doctors leave their stuff in the break rooms. I just assumed he grabbed some scrubs out of the laundry or whatever, because that's a thing in hospitals, and then he grabbed some doctor's coat off their office door or something, and just went in there and started welling on Vince. Because I don't think it would be in Steve Austin's character to just beat up a random doctor who did no one any harm.
I mean, he did show up to Brian Pillman's house.
Okay, but Brian Pillman, he didn't have
They had heat.
they had heat. They had an issue,
Yeah.
and Brian Pillman was also a wrestler.
Yo, he tried to
He
drown.
wasn't a
He
doctor.
trying to drown one of his boys in the kiddie
Yeah.
pool.
There's a difference between being Vince's doctor
Yeah.
and Brian Pillman.
No, I got you. Being boys with Brian Pillman will get you beat up. Being Vince's doctor, we might just pickpocket you. But
Yeah.
but
He's just
Stone,
gonna steal his identity.
but Stone Cold was also like at the same time he's like, you know what? I need to call the people over at Miller. We got to get one of those beer trucks, and I need them to retrofit it with because I don't know if you know this. Beer trucks typically do not have hoses for beer. He had to call, in kayfabe, calls Miller like, hey guys, I need help. Can you retrofit a truck to like pump a lot
Beautiful.
of beer? And it's great. It's lovely.
It's great, and it makes a fun moment for television.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's not, if we want to look at like what is more like at an inspiring level, that's a more entertaining. Like
Sure.
we can say that watching someone get blasted with a bunch of beer is really funny.
Yeah.
But when you look at an inspiring thing, it's not an inspiring thing. It's just like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Whereas things is like, oh,
One
if
man
I
can
see
make a difference.
yeah, you can make a difference as a single person. Because that was the entire point of the Sting storyline, is if he was going to join the NWO or Team WCW, they were vying for control of the company, and Sting was the difference maker. It literally was one man made all the difference.
Yeah, you're right.
Now we can get into when everyone joined one version of the NWO and stuff, but
Yeah,
that's bad
we'll
booking.
get we'll
We'll
yeah,
get
and
there.
we'll get to
We'll
the
get
endings
there.
of how these go because and I think it's
They're
important.
both disappointing.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, it's a cautionary tale, right? It's but Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think was it's inspirational in the way that like obviously you can't do that, but like the amount that you can try to make someone's day better by like having them live that fantasy in their head is sometimes I think a very good thing because you can how do I want to put this? I don't think I'm gonna don a black leather trench coat and go beat up hoodlums with a baseball bat. But
No, but
like
you can go to your local your town hall meetings. You can go advocate for
yeah,
certain problems in your community against the system. You can go and do those things. You can advocate for people who may not be seen or heard, and you can do that as one person. It's not going up and being a vigilante. It's standing up and against an unjust system.
right.
You're taking the physical aspect of it too literally. It's standing up. You one person can go in.
No,
You can
yeah.
you
No,
can
you're
go
right.
stump for these people. You can go do those things as one person. You can go make a change in your community, in your even if it's in your neighborhood. You can make changes for the better as one person.
Yeah.
You just have to find the area where you can do that.
Yeah. I think it's like two sides of what's the word here? Activism comes in all shapes and sizes. Yeah. And a lot of people, I don't want to put this. The way that you're saying, be involved in your community, do this and do that. Like that is the healthy way to
You
do
can
things.
also do it other
You can
ways,
also do it other
but
ways. But for long-term sustained change, it should probably be the Sting way. But you also have to think of the optics of these things. Remember, like, not only if you're trying to make change, it's not just physically like making the changes in your community. It's get part of change is getting others to buy into that change. When you do the theatric and the stuff like that, like you're gonna bring in people because they're gonna be emotionally invested in it. Yes, it is entertaining, but when you're doing that type of stuff, like you're sending a message. You know, it's there could be a rallying point, almost like hey, we're gonna stand up to Vince and show him that he can't do this because we tell him he's not untouchable. We Stone Cold Stunner him, his family, his wife, his kids, his progeny for eons are still feeling the Stone Colds. But Stone Cold is the other side of the coin. I think you need to have both. You need to be able to you're gonna have to rally the people. Like, okay, like one man going out there and doing something is great, and like Hollywood has pushed that over with like what is it, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where or like these, or like someone doing the filibuster for like 18 hours. Like you're the one person protecting freedom right now. Like okay, it's fine, whatever. But I think that if Stone Cold was more of I think if Stone Cold took some of the things that Sting did, maybe it would have been a little more impactful.
well, this is my thing is Stone Cold's run
Yeah.
can be summed up with a single country and western song. Like, ooh, I hope I get this right. Dylan, fact check something for me. Who's take this job and shove it? It was Conway Twitty, right?
Conway Twitty. Let's
I want
see.
to make sure it's Conway Twitty. It's either him or George Jones. Take this
This
job
job
and
and
shove
shove
it.
it. You can take this job
Job and
and
shove
shove
it.
it.
I ain't working here no
But
more.
Stone Cold kept working there. He just didn't like his boss. Dude, okay. The 90s was a weird time, but like Stone Cold, what is it?
Who is it?
Is it Hank Williams Jr.?
Something coming up. Johnny Paycheck. Take this job and shove it.
What? All right, hold on.
Oh shit, I was that wrong.
Who originally sung Take This Job and Shove It? That's it. Take This Job and Shove It, recorded by Paycheck. Yeah, Johnny Paycheck. Dog, you were
Johnny,
way
wow,
off.
dude. Like,
Who's
listen,
Johnny Paycheck? Johnny Paycheck is a hilarious name. I love that name, by the way. Songwriters David Allen co-wrote it.
that actually makes perfect sense for the song, though.
Yeah, Johnny Paycheck. Johnny Paycheck is an American country music singer, Grand Ole Opry member. Take the job and shove it.
Well,
There's the homie.
since we're recording and we can just edit stuff.
No, it's fine. We're gonna learn about him.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So you can sum up Stone Cold Steve Austin's whole run with the song "Take This Job and Shove It."
Yep.
Except kept working there.
Dog, because he Stone Cold liked what he
Even
did.
though, like, in storyline, and he kept working there
Yeah.
out storyline.
Yeah.
His job,
Yeah, they were
his
like
job is to do this. But like in storyline, he kept being an official employee of the WWE.
Yeah.
Would the storyline have been any different if like he quit the company and then kept doing the stuff, or he got fired?
Yeah. I mean,
Do you think that would have enhanced? Like, that's the side question. Do you think that would have enhanced the angle more if they fired Steve Austin?
didn't they fire him for like a week? And then eventually he came back and he was like signed to an ironclad contract or something, I thought.
It might have been. I can't.
Dylan, did Stone Cold Steve Austin get fired from when Vince McMahon was I think he told
Hey,
Austin.
Dylan, did he ever get fired?
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe
Kayfabe fired. I think he got kayfabe fired.
Because I'm trying to think. I can't remember if he did, it wasn't like for an extended period of time.
No.
It was for like 1 week, so he could just show up on the fired week and cause havoc.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing. Or like he had something going on and you know, they just used that you're fired for a week, Steve, because he had like to go get a surgery or like
Yeah.
had a birthday or something. Well, Steve
Look,
Austin probably wasn't like
here's
a
the thing.
birthday missing wrestling for a birthday party type thing. So
Vince, you know I can't come in. I'm gonna be 35 and we're going to Fuddruckers.
we're going to Disney World, Vince.
Me and my wife Deborah are gonna
You-
ride Space Mountain,
you
not Ric
should-
Flair.
You shouldn't have moved the company to Florida.
All the brothers live down in Tampa. All the old wrestlers. It's where they like, go to like it's like wrestler hell waiting room.
There's another pretty important WWE Hall of Famer that lives in Florida too.
Terry Bollea.
No, another one. Also orange.
Huh? Also an orange?
Also orange. There's another WWE Hall of Famer that lives in Florida.
Oh yeah, the future president.
About to live in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Dog,
Again.
isn't it crazy?
First person since Grover Cleveland.
Since Florida?
No, it wasn't. Grover was the last person to have non-consecutive presidential terms, right?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. It was either Grover Cleveland or like the other, the really fat one, like the
Taft?
Taft. I can't remember if it was Cleveland or Taft that had the.
I don't
It's
know.
probably neither of them. I'm wrong on that one.
Anyways, look.
It's been a while since I looked at presidents, man. Dylan,
Do we get an answer on that Stone Cold one?
was he ever fired during like his whole?
Just Vince McMahon fire Stone Cold. Vince McMahon fire Stone Cold Steve Austin.
See something from Reddit. Once he got a new golden goose in The Rock, he did fire him, but Shane, who pretended to be Austin Valor, fucked up when he re-signed Austin to a contract that made it too expensive to fire.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay. He's gonna fire Austin because even though Austin made him richer. So I'm looking at there's a Reddit from a year ago. Why didn't Vince McMahon just fire Stone Cold Steve Austin during the Attitude Era and kayfabe storyline? And people said
He made him too much money.
yeah, no, Mr. Krabs. There's literally Mr. Krabs says, "Hello, I like money." That's exactly the reason. Kayfabe, Vince McMahon was like, "Dog, I do not care if you destroy my car and beat up my wife. Like, do you look? That is the problem. Stone Cold actively fighting late stage capitalism."
Vince did fire Austin after Austin refused to ref a match fairly at a '98 pay-per-view. Austin responded by kidnapping him and sticking a gun to his head. And
Oh, that's what it was.
Bang 360.
Oh,
That's what. Okay, that's why it was.
he took Vince McMahon hostage,
Dog.
and that's what got him to fire him. Okay, so
Wait, I'm sorry. I also have to pull the veil back on real life professional wrestling here. Vince McMahon peed himself on national TV. Do you think he was excited to do that? Knowing what we know about Vince
yes,
McMahon now, do you think
he was.
Yeah, do you think he was like,
oh
oh,
my
he's like, I'm
God.
gonna pee on myself?
You know,
Oh.
you know that video where like Diddy is having someone dunk over him, and like you can see Diddy get up on his tiptoes.
Oh,
Like that now. Like at the time, you never noticed it, but now going back and looking at it, you're like, oh,
there were signs.
there were signs. There were so many signs,
It-
like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
What a twist.
Get me my tinfoil hat. It's real funny that the tinfoil, like everyone's like generic tinfoil hat, like making skills came from that movie.
Yeah, dude.
It's so good.
But Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? That was the Bang 3. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about their most, I would say that the biggest moment was when Stone Cold Steve Austin did do the Bang 316. Either that or the beer bath. Your mileage may vary depending on what you like, but Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out in his hunting gear, like he had been lying in wait for Vince McMahon, even though he had kidnapped him. Who knows what he did with Vince in between those times of kidnapping him and showing up with Monday Night Raw. But he shows up, puts the blicky right on Vince McMahon's skull and makes Vince fear for his life. I mean, at literal threat of. Also, the payoff ultimately was a Looney Tunes gag. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Made your boss look goofy. Also, where were the police? Oh, because never mind. Hold on. The police wouldn't have shown up because Vince McMahon was not a billionaire at that time. WWE was not a $1 billion publicly traded company. If he had done that when Vince was a billionaire, they would shut down all the bridges, and they would have unlaunched the New Jersey drones to go find him. That's what those drones for. Those drones are looking for Luigi Mangione.
Ezio Auditore?
What? I don't know what you're talking about. What did
Ezio?
Ezio?
You're talking about Ezio Auditore di Firenze or whatever,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's a hidden blade.
Yeah.
No, the guy who
Luigi had a hidden blade.
Dog, the guy who used the hidden blades on the other channel.
Ooh.
Anyways, yeah, the aerial assassin, the autistic assassin. I saw a sign. I'm repeating what a sign said. It said my autistic assassin.
Okay. Okay, cool.
See?
Hey, do you want to repeat a Jay-Z and Kanye West song about Paris for me?
No, dog.
Okay, cool. Why are you saying a sign?
What?
Exactly.
I didn't see that on a sign.
I mean, you can.
Oh, where you got one? You got
Not
it
at a
right in your-
wrestling event.
Yeah, not at a wrestling event. That's for sure. Jay-Z's going down too. You were talking about Diddy earlier, right?
Oh, side note, and don't put this in there. Man, I picked a good time to listen to that Jay-Z and Linkin Park album because now I
Dog,
can't.
yeah, I
That's
know.
the last time we ever get to hear
No,
that,
this is-
that bad boy.
I'll be honest. This is probably gonna stay in because this is really funny. Yeah, last week we were playing cards, and you put on it was a beautiful nostalgia burst. And then I thought the exact same thing earlier this week. I'm like, damn, dog, we just listened to that on the last week, and you could listen to that legally without feeling bad. So
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is such good. Let's listen. We listened through the whole thing, and then like the next day, I was like, ooh, wow, I got to cut this out of all my playlists.
All right,
At least in the court cases done.
biggest moment: Stone Cold Steve Austin taking Vince McMahon and making him pee his pants in the ring. Whether or not that was sexually gratifying for Vince McMahon is out for the jury to decide. Also, the jury hopefully will decide on something with Vince McMahon. Allegedly. I don't use allegedly for the rich.
Allegedly.
Sue me. Anyways,
They can, but you're judgment proof.
But yeah, right. Let's talk about Sting's biggest moment. For me, I think Sting's biggest moment was when he came down from the rafters and people were like, "What side is he on?"
I don't think that is the biggest moment.
What do you got?
That's kind of Sting has chosen a side.
Yeah.
The moment for me is kind of where the climax of the whole feud happens, which happens 97, I believe. Because after that, it just becomes a back and forth. Sting joins Wolfpack, but the climax of the feud is when he lays everybody out at Uncensored.
Yeah. Yeah. 97.
When he comes out and he lays everyone, he lays out Hogan, he lays out Big Diesel, he lays out Scott Hall, he lays out every single member of the N.W.O, and that's the moment, like, he's declared against them, but that's the moment it's like, oh, he's taken every single one of these members out.
I know, and it was just the N.W.O A team at that point. Can you imagine if he had to take out the N.W.O when it was all the subsidiaries and satellite organizations? It would look like the Bills scene with the 88.
Yeah, it would have been the crazy 88 scene, but with baseball bats and like chairs. Like that's
No, it was baseball bats, chairs, Conan, Virgil, and freaking Horace Hogan laying on the ground.
like, so that's the thing. Let's kind of move into the ends of both of these.
Yeah.
Because they are both
Not what you want.
very disappointing for different reasons. One is disappointing for in storyline reasons. The other one's disappointing because it's WCW.
Yeah, and I'm going to start with mine, which I think Stone Cold Steve Austin turning heel and joining the corporation was a psyop by the CIA because they were like, the people are getting too, that we can't let them think that they can stand up to their bosses. That's all. That's what it was. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin would never do that. Stone Cold was Winter Soldiered. They said Train Car 32, DTA, Stone Cold Miller Lite. And the homie was like buzz and flipped over to the other side. That's the only thing. There's no way. Stone Cold Steve Austin's a man of the people, and he would never turn his back on them.
No, if I remember correctly, he was offered a championship in addition to just getting more money. So at the end of the day, the point of the storyline was capitalism gets to win.
Dude, capitalism undefeated.
It gets to win no matter what. Whereas with the Sting storyline, it was a bunch of people's ineptitude in a boardroom ruined a whole bunch of people's careers.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Real in storyline. WCW stuff, obviously the company folded, so you didn't really get to see the end of everything.
Right.
But at a certain point, the whole company, everyone was part of the NWO. Like there wasn't anyone in the company that wasn't in the NWO. It got to the point where they had to have black and red and black and white NWOs because you needed to tell who the faces and the heels were apart.
Yeah.
It was to the point where there were multiple faces and heels in the different NWO factions.
Why? And that's why it was like it. That's ineptitude, and I get that. But let's okay. All right. Extrapolate this just for a second. Continue like an epilogue for Sting going to TNA. Sting eventually becomes like the thing that he hates when he joins like the main event mafia. I know it's not WCW canon. Get off my ass. But let's say it's the continuation of Sting. Sting joins the main event mafia
If we look at Sting's storyline as a
as
character throughout
right throughout time.
wrestling, we're not following the promotion.
Sure,
We're
sure.
following Sting as a character
Right.
and a full arc
Right.
from beginning to because we actually can
We can do
genuinely
that.
do from the beginning of Sting to Sting's full retirement.
Sure.
Like,
And that is absolutely insane. The fact that Sting has been wrestling that long, and I know a lot of people like you might have not watched him in TNA. Sting was still wrestling then.
Sting was putting on matches. He was doing the work.
Yeah. So but I think that, and I know Stone Cold joined the corporation, right? He did get corrupted by the gold and the money, and that's not good. Ultimately, like, and I think that is kind.
And he wanted to beat up a black person.
Which one?
The Rock.
Sorry, Rock. You're right.
Which black? Oh, I don't know. The guy whose dad's black.
Yeah, dog. That's my bad. That's my bad. I didn't mean the erasure, Mr. Johnson. I apologize.
I mean, he never played it up outside of the Nation of Domination, which was a calculated move on his
I'll be
part.
honest. As a kid, I didn't know he was black.
It's like Halsey. You wouldn't know Halsey's black until you were told her father is
who?
a black
Oh,
man.
the rap.
The singer,
The
Halsey.
singer. Yeah, yeah. No, but Stone Cold Steve Austin did join, and I want to bring that up because I think that happens a lot with people in their lives. They get to a certain point and have these ideas, and you have this idea of, oh, I'm not going to do these things. I'm going to be a champion of the little guy. Stick with my people. Not be a clash traitor. But just as we saw with with Luigi Mangione taking a chomp from the he wanted a hash brown. Who doesn't want a hash brown? And somebody calls the police on him because you could make money. That person might not get the money from what I hear because they didn't.
And they got fired because the
my god!
Allegedly the person was let go from McDonald's because people won't stop calling the McDonald's and harassing the McDonald's now.
All right. Well, I mean, don't
Stop harassing minimum wage workers.
Yeah, dog. Like, look, there's duality in things, and there's gray areas. But like, this person was trying to change their material conditions, and
These people are making like maybe $10 an hour, and I don't even think
it's not your enemy. That's like
That's-
far away from your enemy, my friends. Like, yeah, people are like,
these teenagers do not make enough money to deal with your BS when you're calling in. Call in
No.
like in the middle of the day when you're certain you're getting like a full grown adult who is working at McDonald's.
Also, like,
because their soul is broken and they don't care. They'll just listen to it and then be like, all right, thank you, and then just move it along. Don't emotionally scar a teenager for life.
yeah,
Do it to like a 34-year-old who doesn't have a lot going on.
I don't recommend that either. Don't. Personally, don't. Look, some people make bad decisions. Don't.
Working up, listen,
They're still working.
McDonald's managers make like 50 or 60,000, dude.
They make more than that. The guys at Panda Express make 70 to 100. You make 70 to 100 at Panda. You're not going to make 100 at Macker's. What are you talking about?
Well, one of our friends was a manager there, so I know like roughly the amount of money they make.
He's getting
there.
Jerked around. But they're still working class people. Here's the thing: though some people make more money than you, or whatever the case may be, the working class is still nowhere near. Like, think about this: if you made $100,000 a year, right? The CEO of your company, whether guy Brian of United Health, he's like $23 million.
It was 9.9 million was his.
Okay, $9.9 million. How many
after his bonuses and stuff? He was at like 23 million for
Right.
the year, but on paper, his on paper salary is like 9.9.
But even at like $100,000 a year, you're still working class. Like nowadays, like
Well,
there's such a huge gap between the wealth in this country, between the haves and the have-nots. That
I
is
would say it's not even just 100K. I would say
no, yeah, it's definitely more. I'm
it's
just
even
giving
more
an
than that. I
yeah,
would say it's not about how much money you make, but like I would posit that athletes are in the same class, even though they're making a lot more money and they can live a
but
lot better lives. They're still working 40 to 50, 60-hour a week
they're
jobs.
just because you're being compensated better for your
The
labor.
amount of money they're making for that
Right.
company is astronomically
Right.
more. The reason why the NFL or NBA is paying them 100, like 70 or $80 million is because they've ran the numbers and said, we can pay you this because we're certain you're going to make this percentile multitude
Yeah.
factor more for our company
And that's what
and profit.
and those reasons right there is also what pisses me off about these conversations when people are like, Swerve Strickland shouldn't get paid that much. Swerve Strickland should get paid as much money as he can possibly make. I don't care. Like, how dare you? How dare you, as another working class person, say someone shouldn't be making more money and
Just
removing
because they're making a lot.
removing
Like,
more money from a billionaire's pocket into a person who's actually physically doing the labor, going out there, putting their body on the line to entertain you, versus the guy who's
there's a
writing
difference
it.
between a guy who day trades his way
Yeah.
to a $20 million paycheck and a guy who throws himself off of like
Ladders.
ladders for his like $8 or $9 million for a 5-year contract.
Yeah, because you
Those are different people. One of those is still
sure.
a working class person. Like he's making a lot of money, but he's also making a lot of money for the company.
Yeah.
If you wanted to say how much money he's actually making, he's probably making them 30 or 40 million dollars,
Yeah.
like
Right. You're right. Yeah.
for talent, like for merchandise and those kind of
But I'm
things.
saying uh, it's not just like so people are like he shouldn't be paid that much, but you have to remember that those years, the years that Swerve, I'm just use Swerve Strickland for an example. The guy came up through CZW, probably making very little money, doing very insane things,
Oh,
trying to break through. That's not only what he is worth, but that is back pay for everything that's
here's
helped
how I
get you to
know.
that point.
Because there's so many, and I've been looking into the Lucha Underground stuff, so I know that there
Yeah.
is a lot of issues with people just not getting their money
Yeah.
and not getting what they were promised. So, and that's another company Strickland worked for.
Sure.
He got jerked around by them too, almost assuredly. So there are the amount of money someone makes when they're doing a job
Yeah.
isn't as important as what the job itself actually is.
Right. As long as like the fact is, if you are not of the ruling class, you are probably getting exploited for your labor. And it's not fair that somebody who I know like
If you're not getting paid in stock options, someone is making money off of you.
insanely.
If you're getting paid in stock options, then that either means A1, your company's probably a good enough company to work for that they're like, hey, if we do good, you're gonna do good.
Yeah.
And two, if you're getting paid in stock options, you're making more money than
That's where
than
the money's
God.
at. I'll be
Too.
honest. I'll be honest. That's where the money's at. I'm not there at my in my companies, and nor is my wife, but my parents did that kind of shit. And like, it's not the same. Like, it's a completely different game.
I
And no one
know
ever explained
I
that
know
to me.
Ford does it. I know Ford
Yeah.
has a profit sharing thing
Get in a
where you
union.
get shares. Yeah.
Get in a
Unions do it. Yeah,
union.
get a union.
Get in a union. That's organize your labor and don't let people jerk you around on it. Yeah. Speaking of, let's see what the jerk arounds on our poll said. We're gonna pull up the
What
results here.
did the poll say, Mike?
Let's see. I'm gonna pull that bad boy up. Let's see. Before we look at the polls, that's Sean Rossap. Hey, buddy. I want to pull up the poll, and I want to look at some of the comments here. Some of the comments here. Friend of the channel, Luvalis says Austin versus the Corporation did feel much like an arc or a long term story where Sting absolutely does. Austin more obviously successful, but the arc feels like a weekly cartoon where he overcomes.
He's the Joker.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier with the Deadpool. Like he's got
Sting might look like the Joker, right? He has the
Yeah.
makeup and everything. But Austin's actions were just the Joker. He showed up to just
Chaos.
he just was urinating people's Cheerios. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, that's true.
That was his point.
Mike versus friend of the channel, Mike versus the world says, "Here's the thing: the corporation never felt like a threat to Austin, but Sting always felt like he was fighting for his life against the N.W.O. That's fair because Stone Cold Steve Austin had a point. Like they literally had the Stooge, like Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe were just like
The corporation was there to laugh at.
they were
there as the most stereotypical heel foil possible.
Yeah.
They were there to make Austin look great and like a superstar.
and they
The
did.
NWO and Sting was there to make Sting look like he was struggling. They were trying to tell
Yeah,
a story because you have to remember this was the time where WCW was definitely the more mature of the shows
that's true.
in terms of story content and stuff, and WWE was playing catch up with Austin, right? Like historically, that's what Austin was. Austin was their catch up. He was the rocket that pushed them past WCW
Yeah,
because of his storyline and his ability to connect with people.
you're right.
It was also a different time too. Like with a lot of remote work now and bosses being different, a little bit different, and like I think work culture has changed a little bit to the not
Yeah.
since the 90s and since like Steve Austin's.
Yeah,
Like some of the stuff those bosses could do to you in the 90s and 80s cannot happen nowadays.
some of those
Some of it can.
It
Some
can.
of it
No,
definitely
can. It definitely can. And if you are in one of those positions that, for example, if one of your bosses has done anything that Vince McMahon has done to anyone on screen or off screen, in character or not in character, call
The
the
police.
police. Because what you are experiencing is abuse. Like Vince McMahon was an abusive boss, and he was a caricature. Wrestling, I always think is parody, right? WCW, that was more of like not parody. That was more of like a hope, like give you hope.
They didn't even want to show hope. They were like, WCW is doing more of what wrestling is now like adopted. It's less of like the big whack because there's still wacky characters and silly comedy
Sure.
acts in wrestling. That is an aspect of it. But with WCW and wrestling now, we want to look at the storylines in wrestling and be able to connect them to other pieces of like our media has become so interconnected now
Yeah.
with the internet and stuff. We want to be able to look at wrestling and be like, hey, that's like Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like just because that's how people interpret stuff nowadays.
Cinema.
That's just how people interpret stuff nowadays
Yeah.
is, oh, X thing is like my favorite other X thing. And that's just how the internet works now with all the microcosms and fandom and all
Yeah.
of that stuff. It's just this thing is like this thing, cool. And it's just trying to find that ways to relate to people.
You're right. Last comment I see here I'm going to talk about is Mac Thomas. He says, I always pick Sting. He picks Sting. Let's see what
I picked Sting
let's see
too.
what the breakdown is with 362 votes totaling up with the final calculations at 43%. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Corporation, and the winner with 57%. It's outside of anything within the 5% margin of error. We have to redebate at a later date. Now, this doubt, it was not. It was a handled victory.
I'm going to change one of my
13%.
answers because I saw the picture there. The most iconic part of that entire feud was Sting taking off the fake Sting mask to just reveal the Sting face paint. It's the best. It's not only the most iconic moment of that feud, it's arguably one of the most iconic moments of wrestling in all time.
I love it.
It's for me, it is number one is by God, he's broken in half.
Yeah.
So the Undertaker and Mankind cell scene and Sting taking off the mask to reveal the Sting face paint because of just how many memes it's been involved in.
It's so
good.
It's so
good.
It's so good that it's been done in every company. That
My
Sting's
favorite
been
one
in.
is like me showing back up to the bar after my friend sent me home in the Uber.
Yeah, I'm here. All right, folks, that's gonna do it for this episode of Do We Have Heat? The winner, the best anti-hero, stand up to a corporate authority figure is Sting.
Stang.
It's Sting. All right, y'all. We'll catch you next time. Make sure you're following us. Watch this and everything we produce at Suplex Media. If you don't, you're going to end up in the pro wrestling gulags. We're going to make sure of that. So make
We
sure.
will. We will.
Yeah, we're rounding people up.
We'll delete
It's
your
le-
Fortnite account.
It's legal now. It's legal. Like,
We'll break all your Roblox buildings.
yeah, yeah.
We'll destroy your base in Rust.
Yeah.
Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
I will. Yeah, I'll
Like,
play
share, and
Marvel
subscribe.
Rivals, and I won't heal you as Cloak and Dagger. Get bent.
I'll sit and spawn the whole time.
That's right.